Right, so let's start with this table again. What have you got in the bride's standpoint? What's your goal?
Our goal is to have an individual design cake with specific site delivered on time to the right venue. That's what I want as well.
That's what you wanted to bride. You're getting married, are you?
No.
Okay, and what did you have?
Late,
This table?
We just can't. We're a bit more sparse than that. We've got choice and options, originality and delivered on time. We didn't care where it went.
So you're setting yourself some goals around the very similar things about the originality of the cake, the appearance and so on. So that it was a lovely cake, very special for that day. Okay, your table again, what have you got under the parents, the bride's parents, the funders' standpoint?
Value for money and quality.
Value for money and quality. And you've got goals around?
We've got to keep their daughter happy, but at an acceptable price.
Yeah, so you're looking for value for money?
It's sort of a personal touch, you know, sort of keeping the daughter happy is very important.
Yes, that's right. So you need to understand the client's perspective in order to please the funders. Yeah, that's a bit like working in the voluntary sector, actually, isn't it?
Any possible copy.
Keep trying at it.
Okay, this table, what have you got in your internal processes?
We've got cost-effective manufacturers.
So you're manufacturing it in a way that actually help you make money.
Marketing
Yeah.
and suppliers.
What do you mean by suppliers? Because suppliers isn't a goal, is it really?
Managing the relationship with the supplier,
Yeah.
the processes.
Good relationship with suppliers.
Yeah, or maintaining your supplies, perhaps. I know you were talking
Yeah.
about the stock control and
Finding the
housekeeping.
right suppliers, isn't it?
Yeah, making
good price
sure-
now.
Making sure you're managing the supplies, I think it's
Yeah.
wider than just suppliers, isn't it? Because the suppliers are one of your stakeholders. So managing the supplies would be the process.
Yeah,
Because
good
you've got to
supplies.
make sure your eggs aren't off, otherwise you'll, have a difficult time with repeat orders. You want to kill the guests.
Let's kill the chickens.
Yes. What have you got for your goals for internal processes?
To make sure the quality is of a high standard and to make a cake that suits the needs of the bride, maintains the quality of the organisation and that is delivered on time.
Okay, so you've still got the same things about being delivered on time. What you need to concentrate on in that processes box is what processes do you need to excel at? And so far, have you made a cake? I think you made a cake. You had manufacture.
Yeah, cost-effective
Test run.
manufacturing.
You've got
test run, to have a test run.
to have a test run. You've actually got to have the cake being made.
And a taste we've got as well.
And what?
We've got taste.
You've got taste.
Yes,
Okay, some
yeah.
people have taste in the bride's box, some people have taste in the funder's box. But taste is not an internal process, is it? Like suppliers is not an internal process. So when you're doing this for yourself and setting your own goals, think,
Managing supplies.
is this the process that we want to improve?
I think initially the taste is quite important because we wouldn't want it to be disappointing for the bride.
Perhaps your internal process then is recipe testing? Okay?
That's kind of what we mean by test run.
Yes. Yeah. In order and test running it and then making it. So you need to make sure that your internal processes goals are really about the internal processes and they're not just a repetition of the clients and the funders. Because remember, as voluntary organisations, we're used to thinking about the client's needs and goals for them. We're used to thinking about the funders' needs, some of us, but we're not used to thinking about what we actually do. And so it's really important here to focus on the processes. We need to buy the ingredients and make sure they're up to date and they're not going to go off. We need to make the cake in an efficient way where the taste is good and reliable. So those sorts of things are the internal processes. Okay, happy about that?
We had another one which was to make sure the thing was going to stage it on its available.
To make sure.
The thing was going to stage it on, because quite often you've got a lovely cake, you haven't got a platform to present it on.
Well, again, that's the planning, isn't it? So maybe one of the internal processes should be event planning or planning the delivery or whatever. Okay, so you need things that you do on a day-to-day basis to make the organisation run in the processes box. Don't be fooled into putting your client goals back in the processes box again, because you, in your organisation, have got to make sure that your staff know what they're doing and that they do it well, and that it runs like clockwork. What have you got over here in the internal, the reflection and improvement box?
Right, we've got a couple. We've got market research, which, I mean, if you want to put it in process stuff, that will be perform market research.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is to do with, you know, finding out, perhaps doing surveys about what people want, what kind of cake designs they like. Then we've got research into manufacture, yeah, in terms of perhaps trying out different recipes and improving the product that way. And one on feedback, yeah, obtaining feedback. So trying to get feedback after you've actually delivered a cake and people have eaten it, that they like it.
Yeah, that's fine. So maybe your test running should really be a reflection and improvement goal, and the making of the cake should be in the processes. So you're doing the process, and at the same time you're thinking about testing it to see how it's going. What did you have in your reflection and improvement box?
We have three things. We said, how did it go for us? So let's step back and look at the whole thing. Did it go as we wanted to?
Was it efficient? Yeah.
Did we get good, or sorry, what feedback did we get from the client? Were they satisfied with us or not?
Monitoring and evaluation.
And is there any other sort of market potential as a result of that particular
Okay.
event?
There's one in this ad.
New product design, perhaps R&D,
Yes.
research and development. Is there one you've missed out?
Yeah.
Did-
Did you make a profit?
Did you make a profit in this case? Yes.
So
And in a
the
voluntary organisation, how are my costs?
Yeah.
You know, have I gone over budget?
What?
Have I spent all the grants?
Exactly.
So reviewing the costs is also a very important thing. So far, I think you've got the clients and the funders' viewpoints okay. You understand about the reflection and improvement. When you go back to base in your own organisation, you're thinking about the processes, make sure you concentrate on those processes, because that's what you're going to, if you do use technology, it's going to be to drive those processes appropriately. And you need to understand what are the key processes that you need to excel at in order to make your organisation run better, without just thinking about what the client wants or without just thinking about what the funders want. What processes do you need to be good at to make sure that the whole thing runs smoothly? Okay, that was interesting. This is what we did earlier, and you'll see it's not hugely different from what you've got there. We've got a goal around making original, beautiful and personal cakes. We've got the taste there in the brides, that could be arguably over here. The bride parents want the daughter to be happy, so it's got to look beautiful, it's got to be on time, it's got to be in the right location, and value for money. People have no problem with finding value for money and putting it in there, so we understand the funders' goals. In the internal processes, we've got similar things to you, making the cake, costing out the ingredients we put in the processes, so we do that on a day-to-day basis. Reviewing the costing would be the thing that you brought up, Sid, and purchasing and managing the ingredients, which is something that I know you thought of over there. And reflection and improvement, we've got recipe testing, which is something you all mentioned. Keeping up to date with the latest fashions, your market research that you mentioned, Richard. And we put training in the latest icing effects because we wanted some training there, and we thought that would be fun. So there you go. This is the staff training to make sure that you're always improving. So there we have a mission that isn't even voluntary sector, that's completely alien to some of us. Certainly, we don't bake wedding cakes for a living. And we've managed to sit down in just 5 or 10 minutes and think about needs and set some goals for this fictitious organisation. So I hope that gives you the confidence to think that when you get back to base, you will be able to do that for your own organisation, provided you remember the things that you've got to ask yourself. Do the needs first, then coalesce them into goals. Make sure that you're thinking about the right thing in each box, and set yourselves goals that are going to make sense in that box. Okay, so that's the end of that little exercise.